Britons living in Hampshire got to enjoy being on the frontier of the Roman world. This, however, did not last long, as their alliance with the Romans gave Claudius all the justification he needed to invade Britain to fight their enemies. What came next was the full package of Romanisation, but as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. Converting a conquered culture to your own ends and needs can take many centuries, and ultimately your attempts can be rejected. What the Romans needed to do was set up thriving areas of their own civilization in Britain to entice and show the benefits of their civilization to the Britons who otherwise might think of resisting. Hampshire was one of the key areas and one of the first where they set up these areas of civilization.
The Legio II Augusta moved west, intent on securing the resource-rich hills of the Mendips and the territory in Cornwall. The Durotriges were evicted, sometimes forcefully, from their local hilltop strongholds, and finally, 10 years after the invasion began, the Legion reached their long-term base and founded the city of Exeter in 54 AD. As the Legion advanced, it left a chain of supply bases along the coast, with a network of roads stretching inland ensuring supplies could also reach their forts. Finally, large military roads were built to link the newly secured resources back to the invasion beach, so that the extraction of Britain's wealth could begin in earnest. As the military frontier moved out from the borders of the Regni, Atrebate and Belgae lands, the Romans granted these territories to a client king. A hybrid form of Roman government was thus established. This was meant to slow the inevitable effects of the culture shock by keeping the loyal British nobility intact and using their leadership to set an example of Roman wealth to the people. This new king, Cogidubnus, paid tribute to Rome, as the Romans sent their tax collectors to assess the wealth of their newly annexed territories. We will now return to Hampshire with George to see this process in action.
Here I am in the land of the Atrebates, in territory specifically held by a small clan called the Bedini. I'm here today to observe Roman taxation processes. I'm joining Tiberius Sextus as he conducts a tax census on a nearby village.
How do these usually go, Tiberius?
Well, they vary greatly, but the general trend is they want us in and out as quick as possible. It's not always possible, though, because we have to be thorough and check they're not hiding anything. On the whole, though, they're a friendly, simple people, but the longer you stay, the more hostile they get.
Well, so do you enjoy this type of work?
It's not what it was. When my grandfather did this job, he made a lot of profit out of it.
Yeah.
Now, not so much.
Name yourself. Who are you and what business do you have here with these soldiers?
I'm Tiberius Sextus, here on behalf of Tiberius Claudius Cogidubnus, great king of the Britons. I'm here to survey the wealth of your village for fair and regular taxation. These are not taxes you will be paying, but taxes paid by your chief on behalf of you to the king.
If it's so fair, why are they here with you?
These gentlemen are here for my own protection. You know what these village types are like. One mention of money and they get all agitated and stop making silly decisions. At present, company exempted, of course. Just an innocent observation.
Well, I suppose if you're here on the authority of Cogidubnus, you can come in, but I don't want your men making any trouble.
Hello there. I saw you speaking with Tiberius, but you seem to speak for the village. But who are you exactly?
My name's Natalinus, and I'm the blacksmith of this small village, and when necessary, I act as its headsman.
And what do you think about this whole situation then?
Well, I'm not so keen on the Romans sending in soldiers to come into our homes and try and raise more taxes out of us. They can ask the chieftain for anything they need. Most of us here are just farmers.
And how do you feel that they say they're representing King Cogidubnus?
I'm not too comfortable talking about that out here.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for your time.
Hello, people of the Bedini. I am Tiberius Sextus, eques and citizen of the Roman Empire. I am here today to take a census for the fairer taxation of your chief and landlord, Masonius. Firstly, I will be taking a record of your animals and livestock. Secondly, I will be taking a quick record of your arable lands. I am aware that this is the first time many of you will have met a Roman, but let me put you at ease. You have nothing to fear from us. This is the start of a wonderful relationship between the benevolent Emperor of Rome and the citizens of King Cogidubnus. A relationship I believe will be beneficial for both sides. Finally, let me reiterate, these taxes will not be paid by you, the villagers, but by your chief on your behalf. Thank you.
Life was undergoing a rapid and unsettling change for the Badini, but more was to come. The roads, originally beginning as military supply routes, quickly shifted to become arteries of commerce. The few Roman-style towns that existed before the invasion were seized upon by the Romans as centres of trade and administration, such as the settlement at Silchester, and similarly the town of Chichester, just across the border. At the meeting point of major roads, towns began to build up as well, such as at Winchester. Like Danebury, the nearby hill forts stood largely abandoned before the Roman invasion. But we cannot imagine the classical cities of Hollywood at this point. However, what the archaeology is finding can shed some light on the experience of the early Romano-British town. The round huts that served as the traditional homes of Britons for millennia were largely replaced by square shop fronts and rectangular households with multiple rooms. We can assume that most of these homes did not belong to the Romans, however, but locals who were choosing to follow Roman example and thus create a hybrid Romano-British culture. Local pottery begins to share the tables of Britain with immense quantities of imported Roman pots of a more consistent quality and civilised finery than the Britons themselves could achieve. In the countryside, wealthy and intrepid Romans and Britons created estates from granted land and built small wooden villas, such as at Rockbourne and Fishbourne, perhaps the early home of the client king Cogidubnus himself. We will now return to George, who is about to meet Natalinus, the blacksmith, the first of our Romano-British family that we will follow through the Roman occupation.
Thank you, Natalinus, for agreeing to speak to me. I realise it can be quite dangerous for you to speak so openly about the Romans, but I am interested in hearing your views on today's events.
I just don't like to aggravate them. We've been friendly with the Romans for a while now, but there's one thing trading with them and it's another thing altogether being ruled by them.
But the Romans here today say they're working for King Cogidubnus, who's a Briton, so surely that should promote some level of trust between you and them.
Well, they say they're here under orders from Cogidubnus, but those are Roman legionaries out there, and Cogidubnus is little more than a Roman puppet. He's only been my king since the Romans gave him that title. I used to see my old king round here quite frequently, and I used to know him. All I know about this Cogidubnus is that he lives in some grand Roman compound down south on the coast. He's not my king.
But the Romans have been here a while. Apart from their client kings, what other factors have shaped your relationship with them?
Well, a few of my relatives went to fight at Medway and no one's seen them since, so they're either out west or dead. So there's no doubt in my mind that the Romans are here as conquerors. They can hide behind the name of Cogidubnus all they want, but it's pretty clear that they're the ones with the real power around here.
Well, you sound pretty staunchly anti-Roman, Natalinus. Would you consider resisting them or going to join your family who have?
Well, I don't like the way they're taking over, but I'm not stupid. I don't think we can beat them. Everyone saw what happened to Caraticus at Medway. But since they've taken care of the warriors and the troublemakers, there have been less raids down in these parts, and they've brought a measure of peace. So I can start trading far and wide. I used to just supply farming tools to my neighbours, but recently we've been able to take a full cartload of goods to the market at Caliva. It's still a bit risky dealing with the Romans, but once the army moves on and the area's a bit more stable, I could probably see myself doing more business with them.
So you said the towns are becoming economic hubs. Would you consider moving to one of these towns to get easier access for trade?
Well, my ancestors have lived on this land for generations now, and our gods have blessed it to be good and fertile. So even if the Romans stop buying my buckles and nails, I'll still have the family to the farm to support my family. The big problem with towns is the competition. The last time I went to the market, I wasn't the only blacksmith there, and it's leading to people undercutting prices and selling rubbish tools to try and get ahead and make a profit. Around here, people have to come to me. I'm the only man with the know-how to turn bare rocks into useful metals. The other thing is the Romans in the towns are just a different kind of people. I don't think I'm ready to accept their gods or what they're trying to do to mine, adding extra names and such. And I don't want my kids to forget the old ways either, so for me it's this hut or the grave.
Tiberius wants to speak to you now.
Oh, well, thank you for your time, Natalinus. I can see you're quite busy, so I'll let you get on with your business, and hopefully we'll be able to speak more later. Thank you very much.
The process of Romanisation began by creating a hybrid of Roman and British culture and politics to ease the Britons into the ideas of Roman civilization. Resistance to Roman rule within the Kingdom of Cogidubnus can only be viewed today by the use of British ideas that, at the time, may have seemed out of date. A round hut was found amongst the early shop fronts of Silchester, a genuine attempt at refusing Roman fashion, or perhaps just a Britain without the means to conform. We can make up our own minds. However, it is clear that not all Britons appreciated Roman rule. In the next episode, we will learn how Roman imperialism faced British rebellion, and how Hampshire may have paid a dear price for their new ruler's arrogance.